All right, so welcome to this live stream in online data collection and management. It's good seeing some of you, but if more of you feel comfortable turning on their cameras, that'll be helpful because it's going to keep me alive during the stream. And there's amazing stuff that we're going to do today. So we have your team presentation scheduled, and I'm really looking forward to giving you some feedback on your research motivation. But before we do that, there's just a few things that I want to go through. So you may or may not have noticed that I added 2 notebooks to the live stream 3, so the live stream from last week. So you may remember I failed tremendously in using our code to download stuff from Twitch. And I explain you why I failed in this notebook, especially like if you use the package that we're using today, it's not really suited for it because you just need to actually see what your browser is doing and simulate browsing behavior. And I do this using a different package, and you could just open it in Colab and you could see it, work through it. If you open it on your computers, the cool thing is that it's actually going to start up Chrome on your computer as like kind of a browser that you can view in action while scraping. So that's pretty cool. And actually, it's a technology I would recommend for many people to use in their teamworks if you're using more advanced sites for scraping. And then also there was this API example, which I didn't end up working out. So here we go. I added those files. And of course, the recordings are there too. So make sure to check this out. Then on Canvas, we have the opportunity to get you signed up for Teams. And a few students have not signed up yet. So I wonder, those students, are you not taking this class for credit? Then please go into the No Teamwork group, because I eventually are going to put you there if you don't sign up. If you are a team and just didn't, get a hang of Canvas, please sign up by today. All right. Maybe you can put I don't know, some details in the chat why you haven't signed up, or do it now, because I'll go through Canvas and the team numbers. I'll call team numbers for their presentations. All right. So thanks a bunch. I made the option a little available a little late, but you can actually upload your slides for today's activity, and these are going to be shared. Hey, Lorenzo, it's you. Sorry, you're the only student I ever met on campus. So but why didn't you sign up? You forgot? You didn't sign up for a team? Well, you're doing teamwork, right?
Yeah, I am supposed to be in Team 11, right?
Did they kick you out? No. I'll put you there. All right. Good.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, sure. All right. Other students, please go through this. Then you can please upload your stuff as a PDF and PowerPoint. I'm going to share this with other students so they can learn from you as well. There's this poll, which is, I think, still active. Almost everybody has filled it in, so that's good. So I'm going to go through this real quick. The students that experience troubles with like their teamwork, please be in touch. Like the Lala category and the teamwork what category. Please be in touch on WhatsApp. You don't even need to be in touch with your team. Just like talk to me and tell me what's going on, and maybe I can just listen and give you a solution. Actually, I'm pretty impressed you're using the Deeprep way of managing your oDCM projects. That's amazing. If you need help on this, you can bring in your oDCM questions in Deeprep too when we discuss like GitHub stuff. So that's perfectly fine. But you can also just contact me, when you experience, synchronization issues with GitHub, right? You want to do git pull, but you can't because there's an error message you don't get, right? I mean, don't set out these things all by yourself. Just be in touch, please. And you know about my opening hours on WhatsApp. To the ones that do it differently, that's fine too. I mean, try it out and maybe I can still win you over eventually. I see that many people are lagging behind in the tutorials. So that's a point of concern because, the course learning curve is steep. If you require different levels of support to kind of get you there, let me know. Maybe it's a timing issue. maybe I can ask some people, like, those that haven't finished Web Data for Dummies, the one from last week, what's the issue? Is it just that there are too many other things going on in your studies, or you feel like you need, you need me to do things differently? If there is anything that you can share, that'll be very, very helpful. And those 6 students that feel lost and need help, you also need to reveal your names eventually. So please also send me just a WhatsApp text. Your name's not going to be shared. Don't put it in the chat here. I mean, just send me this WhatsApp thing. Or if you don't feel comfortable using WhatsApp, that's fine too. Just send me an email. So we can set up a session, and maybe we can meet just like for 20 minutes, and I like try to get you back on track. All right, that's my role. So please, those students that haven't finished, maybe those 40% that haven't finished the dummies, talk to me at least. And those that really need help, I need to talk to you. All right. So please send me a text on WhatsApp now, so that I can actually follow up on this. And we'll set up a session and kind of get you back. Okay, please. Good. Some students didn't know there were recordings on YouTube, so that's cool. So I mean, that's cool. I should have maybe said it more explicitly. So all the time when I finish lectures, it takes like a day or so, I'll put up recording links for each one of my sessions. And what you can do too, to not miss any of those recordings, you can subscribe to my channel, which has probably the most poorly edited YouTube videos in the world, but at least they provide you the content that you need, right? I've got 2 playlists on the channel, so one for oDCM and the other for this other course. So just subscribe to my channel, because I still don't have many followers, just to subscribe to the playlist. All right, so that's it. And then there's something I wanted to announce. Some people wanted a coaching session, kind of like a, I know Hannes is available and he can listen to me right now session. So what we're going to do is next week, Tuesday, during these class hours, 8:45 to like 10:15 or something like this, we're going to have a session where you can just like walk in and ask questions. You could just like work on oDCM stuff. And, if you have a question, just ask that to me. So I'll be available in this Zoom room next week, Tuesday, 8:45 to 10:15. That's on the request by one of you guys that you voiced last week, and this week has been too busy, so I couldn't like kind of get it going. But next week I'll be available 8:45 to 10:15. I have another appointment at 10:30 in the Zoom room. All right. And wow, like 30% have never been to campus. So if you've got ideas on how to meet up, let me know. Maybe we can have one of those accompanied learning sessions on campus too. I mean, if that's a reason for you to come to campus. All right, good. Thanks a bunch. So I want to continue. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to go and listen to the first presentations. But I need to know how many teams we have. So is these all teams? So maybe students have signed up finally. Other than that, probably I can't expect. Can I expect a presentation from Niels, Niha, Juan, Rachel, Gijs? Probably not. All right. Then what we're going to do is we can start with the team presentations. And I mean, we got like 3 minutes presentation, 2 minutes discussion, something like this. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 teams. So it's going to take a full hour to go through this. So I would propose that we go with the first half an hour right now. So we'll listen to 6 teams, give them some love and feedback, and then we'll go on a little break and maybe do some tutorial stuff, and then we get back to the presentations to kind of keep some variation here. All right. Maybe I could just briefly ask you, what is the amount of feedback and guidance you need for Web Data 101? Is it that you're stuck, those students that you did it? Is it like clear? Do you need support? Because I feel comfortable just skipping this part and, having you go through these tutorials, and we'll spend all the time on presentations. But if there's like anything where you say like, no, actually, I want to be, I want to walk through questions, let me know. Good. Yeah, all right. So we're gonna go through your questions. Okay, good. So I want to start with presentations, and something weird that I have to do is like I have to pause the recording like all the time today because we're switching screens, and every time I stop my share and like have you share it, all your faces come into face full screen, and it takes me like hours to like do the editing to take out those faces again, and I don't have that time. So I'll pause the recording right now, and then we'll switch to the first team. So let's you know what we'll do? We'll quickly start before we do this with a little, please indicate your topics and stuff so we can organize it a little bit. Otherwise, it goes like all over the place. So I'm doing a little Google Sheets, and I'm copying team names. And you please quickly describe the data context, e.g. platform, data context, so that I can quickly gosh in what order to do this. All right. Share. Okay, anyone is editor. All right, so please put the thing in the chat, and please put it in yourself. Thank you. Oh, I love how this goes. Greenwashing. That's interesting. What is green? Oh, yeah. Amazing. Amazing. I love it already. Okay. What are the other things? And maybe you could put like whether you scrape or API. So this is API. This is scrape. No. Oh, I already love your group. Amazing. All right, so. Good, I think we're somewhat converting. Well, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think one group is missing. All right, so I'm trying to put this in some order right now. So let me see, how do I want this to be? I think, I expected everybody to like, and I told you not to, but I still expected everybody to do like Twitter and like, TikTok or something like this, which you don't do. So actually, I'm perfectly fine just going by, the random order because I just love all of your topics, I guess. All right, so let's just start with team 1. I'll pause recording.
Can you still see my presentation if I go full screen?
I guess.
It's still visible?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're gonna research use the Rijksmuseum API. To give you a little bit of context, as probably most of you know, the Rijksmuseum is the most visited museum in the Netherlands with 2.7 million visitors in 2019. And the Rijksmuseum links individuals with art and history, and the building blocks for this progressive open data policy that the Rijksmuseum offers is available in this API, and it's inspired by fair data principles. By being able to access over 500,000 art and historical objects and hundreds of thousands of object photographs and the complete library of the Rijksmuseum, the quality of the data is high. It's an award-winning website, and the Rijksmuseum Research Library is part of the Rijksmuseum, and it's the best and largest public art history research library in the Netherlands. So the data sources that will be explored are publicly accessible. It's provided by a primary data provider, which means that data is directly coming from the Rijksmuseum. All right, the API is filled with identifiers like titles, date, format, summaries, everything, so you know what you're looking at. The full collection is available, like I said, with a brief summary, in that detailed descriptions of all the objects, books, arts, everything you're looking at. And the data is also, the data and the code is also partly available on websites such as Kaggle data.overheid. That means that we can look for inspiration on other websites for our own API usage. So why did we pick this API? The data source is publicly accessible. That's available. That's why we actually found this API, because it was on the list on GitHub with publicly available APIs. So yeah, but we also think it's interesting that we can find the diversity in different types of art and time periods. So combining it with a little bit of history. This is a data source where history is kept safe. That's basically like sort of the goal of this API, is to make sure that history is kept safe within data. And it's an interesting topic for us to learn how APIs work and how to do that. And we also picked this because it's actually like a treasure trove of data. Like it says right here, there's some big numbers, like the metadata for 650,000 objects from the collection, high resolution photographs of 400,000 collection objects, 450,000 bibliographic records, etc. So yeah, that's what we're going to do for our group assignment.
All right. We'll start with a round from well, probably this session. Okay. No, the faces are on. Sorry. Let's start with a round from you guys. So what do you think? What are your questions to the team? Do you have any questions or any feedback? Otherwise, I can start. But so it's interesting, but what I'm lacking, so you need to try to pitch this also to a non-art audience. So Wouters, the thing is, I don't know anything about art. I think it's amazing what you do. So let me be clear, but I wonder, is this just an exercise to take a copy of this database? Is that the motivation, or is there a larger motivation? Like, so for example, when you look at the README that you will actually end up writing for this data set, let me go to work plan. Where is it? Grading details. Is there a specific like context in which like research questions take place? Like, to which scholars does this apply? Like, who will use this data once you have gotten it? Like, what is this unique aspect that you're bringing in? Is it maybe the data is on an API, but many people can't use an API, and or is, yeah, I don't know. Can you explain? What do you want people to do with this data once it's out there? Maybe
the data will be interesting for maybe art or history enthusiasts or collectors or those kind of people.
Yeah, but make it more concrete. Like, what will they do? What can they potentially do with it? I'm just not too, I'm not into art so much that I can readily think about applications. The other thing, maybe that's also something that you can do. Compared to the data at data.overheid.nl, how will your data be different? You know,
yeah, I'm not sure right now. I can't really answer that.
That's fine, right? I'm just trying to push you a little bit, all right?
Okay.
So like when you explain this motivation, like something that you can look at is, to try to explain what is the value to the research community in using your data set. I know we're very ambitious here, right? We're trying to create a data set which is like totally unique from like a publicly available API. Maybe that's also just not possible because the data dumped is available on data.overheid.nl, but I don't know, right? So please try to do this better. So think about who are potential stakeholders that can use your data, and think about, in very like superficial terms, but like at least think about it a little bit more about what potential research these people could do. And maybe there's even a link to marketing in a way, right? Like art is one of the, big investment markets these days. And, maybe we can learn this to understand pricing for products in the arts market, right? So maybe that's also like a direction that you could do. What I think is best in the project so far, and that's why you're going to learn a lot doing this, is that you're actually going to take a copy from API data. And that's exactly what I did for my research project with like, one of my recent research projects. There was an API, it had like a lot of data. I can't get all of the data because it's too much. So how can I sensibly take a copy? So I think it's the perfect thing for you to learn this, and you're going to apply these skills, but please also try to think about other people who will actually end up using the data. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Yes. Let's go to the next one. Team 1, are you ready? Goodreads?
Yes, I will do it
Good.
later.
Just put it on your screen, please.
Yes.
Hi, Elena, by the way.
Hi.
The big green button. Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Let me see. Okay. So we are going to look into changes in reading behavior before, during, and after COVID.
Yes.
Because due to corona restrictions and quarantine, people had a lot more time to read because other hobbies couldn't be done. And therefore, we think there may be a change in reading behavior. We also want to take into account with that the age and gender, for example, or the place of country of residence, because we think perhaps younger people did not read that much, and now they do because they had nothing else to do. And maybe older people, the change is less because they already did read a lot, for example. And also place of residence in cities, perhaps there was more influence from COVID because they could do a lot of activities and not anymore. And maybe on the countryside, it's less because they have other activities that still can be done. Which keeps them occupied. So therefore, we also take into account these variables. And we think this is relevant also for example, bookstores to see where there's the change of interest. Maybe there are more younger people who are interested in books and they can target their, for example, marketing more on that. So if they know where what their group of interest is, they can adjust their marketing, for example, to that, and also for libraries. Or for hobbies that substitute reading, it can be interesting to see what changed during COVID in reading behavior of people. And for this, we considered multiple data sources. We start with Kaggle to get an overview of the sources, and we explored multiple sources, also APIs, but ended up finding that Goodreads was a very interesting site for this because you can also have personal information there on the reader. So they have a profile there where they stated the age and somewhat where they live, not very exactly, but the country, for example. So that's why we ended up with Goodreads in the end. And here's also an overview of what information you can get from there and why we chose for this website, which is a website, so we need to scrape it. So yeah, that's it, I guess.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm trying to compare this one to the first presentation, not because I want to criticize or anything. It's just like I think it makes differences very clear, and I think it's a good way to learn, right? So this one has more of a research focus already, right? And while at the same time the research question is not too narrow, right? So it's not like, how did age influence reading habits during COVID? But this project wants to generate a data set before and after COVID. So by the way, Goodreads probably has been up for like 10 years already, like something like this, right? So, but you're going to narrow down the time period a little bit, as I understand, right? So that's good. It's not, it's not like the big thing, taking a copy, because Wouter, it's not going to fit on your computer, like 650,000 objects with pictures and that kind of stuff, right? So it's good narrowing down a little bit, right? For Wouter, for Wouter's team, for example. So that's cool. In terms of the data that I would like you to get on top, if it's possible, are product characteristics, because we can look at how COVID affected reading habits in two ways, right? Who changed reading habits, but which books were affected? That's another one. Is it, I don't know, scientific books that kind of go down and like, I don't know, novels going up. I don't know how to classify books actually. So, that's something maybe you can take a look at. And you also need to seek inspiration from the first team that we've seen, the Rijksmuseum's API. be a little broader in your research. You know, you have this you have your research question in your mind, but think about, okay, what are other potential uses of my data for other people, and see whether you have an easy way to also get that data in a way, right? Or, you know, maybe there are like variables that you want to capture that you don't need to use, but it could be helpful to marketers who are interested in, you know, whatever, right? So you can make it just a tiny bit broader, all right? So yeah, let me see. So for those that have read Fields of Gold, the scraping article, which actually is the backbone of this course, so please take a look at it. You are positioned in this area of new phenomenon, right? So there's like COVID, and, you know, how did it affect reading behavior? It's like kind of a new thing that happens that you do. Whereas, and I'm trying to help you, Wouter, you are more positioned in the better data and more data access thing. So read that section again. Maybe it helps you also phrasing your motivation a little bit. Yeah, I see the clear value. And well, maybe something that you still need to argue a little bit, Eline, is that comparable data sets really are not available. And I think they are not, but maybe you can stress this point a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
Good. And as a reading suggestion, I put you, I put in some, and this is actually for all the COVID people. I'm putting a few things in the chat in a bit. I'll do this in the break. I'll just like sim et al. Marketing Science. Actually, this is one of the articles. This is about the impact of COVID-19 on Spotify consumption of music. And that's pretty helpful because you can get inspiration. And the other paper that you guys should read is actually my Spotify paper, because your scraper is very similar to what I do in this paper, but it's yours is on books and mine is on music. Okay, I put it in the chat.
Yes,
Thank
thank you.
All right, good. All right, let's continue. Greenwashing, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I will share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes, we see it. I'm almost. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, we want to explore greenwashing, societal issue. Environmental issues become more and more important. Looking at, for example, the SDGs of the United Nations. And we wanted to take a marketing perspective on this issue, whether an increase in interest for the climate change and how important this gets also leads to an increase in the interest for green products, and how companies also make green labels, for example. So yeah, we just made some stakeholders, government, companies, customers, environmental groups, and of course the planet. And then we looked at some data sources that we find interesting, like what kind of commercials are used, sentiment text analysis.
Yes.
Looked at annual reports of companies who launched a green label and looked at their R&Ds. Looked also at the number of green labels companies have, and if there's a relative, or is there a trend to relative numbers of social media campaigns related to greenwashing, and also the effectiveness of this. And how are we going to do this? Well, it's just a concept, but we want to do both web scraping, maybe some APIs, and we also found the library PyTrend for using Google Trends. Yeah, that's our idea so far.
So I am fully on board with your first two slides, but the last slide, like let's say how you're gonna do it, I have a bunch of questions. All right. So I want to take a step back. Is there a list of environmentally friendly brands? Is there, can such a list be, does such a list exist or not? Because I think you as like giving input to research teams, right? So what I have is a list, and I paid a lot of money to get that list, to get brand equity data for brands. And I have like data sets with like, firms like Samsung, Apple, but also like other firms you've never heard about. But it's a long list of like how powerful these brands are. And that's an important covariate in my studies.
Yeah.
If you were able to generate a comprehensive list with data on how green companies are, that's going to be like extremely valuable for like hundreds of research teams, because we want to go that route, but we don't have the data.
Yeah.
So I got extremely enthusiastic when you did this, but right now I'm stuck because I don't know Client Earth. I look at the website and I don't see a list of brands, right? And then like just doing social media APIs and greenwashing, you probably identify people that greenwash, but not, yeah, it's like, I don't know. That is very unspecific. So are there data sets on this? Like, I'm excited about your idea in general. So
Yeah. Yeah, I just Googled and I found from Forbes a list of, let's see, 100 companies, the most sustainable companies of 2020. So I think it is possible to get a list of.
but yeah, that
company.
list, unless, yeah, it's I mean, such data you could probably copy paste for like 10 years because it's
Yeah.
just 100 items. So yeah, I'm a little lost. So maybe you can broaden your search again for data sources. And
yeah,
what is possible is, yeah, so your scraper or API needs to be a thing that you can't do manually, right? So maybe that's like a boundary condition if it's just a list. But maybe you can find data sources where there's a lot of data on this, and you just program it up to be like, yeah, to be scraped and then organized in a good way, and other people can use it. I mean, but it needs to be more than just typing the names, because that we can do. All right, let's think about a fallback strategy. Actually, I want to, can you paste the Client Earth thing in the chat, please? This long URL, because I want to take a look at it. Client Earth org, what, I can type it actually. What we do, priorities, greenwashing. Yeah, there's also not a list of things. Yeah. Okay, try to narrow down on what you really want to capture.
Yeah, we will.
And think about the longitudinal dimension of what you do. That means do not only say this company was green or not, or this one engaged in greenwashing or not today, but think also about historical data a little bit. Maybe that works.
Yeah.
Okay. And also check out what kind of data is available in this domain. But if you become like a data set that can be used across the marketing and any other discipline to have like brands mapped on greenwashing or greenishness, that would be just cool. Cool. All right. Is that good?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, we have a bit more text.
That's fine.
Okay. Where we came from was that our team member Charlotte works at a marketing company. And she has to analyze whether Instagram posts are being successful, but she has to do it manually. So has to click on every post every time. And our idea behind this was that this could be done much easier when we use a web scraper.
Good.
And this is also beneficial for other companies who face the same struggles. And then they could spend this time on other things. But before we came up with that, we looked at Spotify, but we thought it was too easy because the lists were already available. And then we thought about
what is available, you said?
Yeah, we were thinking about how the hit lists are created. I'm not sure what our reasoning behind it was, but we ended up thinking it might have been too easy. And then we thought about thuisbezorgd and we found scraping about it. However, if we were to do it, we also got a lot of personal data, such as the full name, address, telephone number, and everything like that. So we thought that might not be in line with the GDPR, so we skipped that as well. And then we came back to the deal with Instagram that we chose. And we found a lot of codes on GitHub about it as well. However, when we tried it, it did not quite function as we had hoped yet. I'm not sure whether it gave errors with uploading or something that was not found or whatever. So we're still figuring that out. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then, well, yeah, it should be quite easy to scrape the data from Instagram with the tool Instagramming. But as I said before, yeah, we came up with some errors, so we're still trying to figure out how we can fix it.
Yes. Do you want me to give feedback? Is that your presentation? All right. So you started from websites rather than a problem, right? So you took a look at certain websites. Really focus on this problem. And I like your problem. I mean, you know, somebody is doing things manually and, you know, you want to help, you know, so that's cool. So don't think about like, this is too easy or this is too hard. You know, if you have like a convincing motivation of why you want to get stuff, you know, that's fine. That's number one. Then the second aspect is you are gathering. Yeah, I don't actually know what your goal is with this data, right? So you haven't spent much time talking about this, probably because you more describe how you got here.
Yeah.
What is it? What it is that you can analyze with this data? What is the broader context, right? So your colleague in your team will probably use it so she can easily pull in this data, but I wonder for which products are you going to pull it in? Are you going to focus on a particular product category? You know, choose whatever your team member is interested in, right? But so what kind of data you want to capture? That is very unclear to me, right? So you have you have a context, which is influencer marketing maybe on Instagram. That's okay. But what exactly you're going to do with this is a little unclear.
It should be about the amount of likes or the comments that post gets, or how many times it gets shared. But then you can see that manually as well. But with this, it should be easier to see and to see it in one go from many posts.
Yeah. Fine. Let me. Yeah. And are you focusing on like a particular context? I mean, is it like certain product category that you want, or you can't do everything, right?
We haven't decided on that yet. We were first trying to see whether the codes actually work, because you can just take an account and then apply it to that. So it should be applicable to everything.
Yeah, yeah. But you're trying to, but it confirms my notion. You're first thinking about what is technically possible, and then you formulate a motivation. It should be the other way around, because I'm here to help you fix the technology behind it. So please, consider maybe starting from the interestingness and like how big your problem is, and then the things unfold on the way, right? Okay. Let me just see. So please make your research problem a little clearer on what it is. The research problem per se is not my colleague has a problem because she has to do it manually, right? So maybe you talk more with each other to find out a particular niche on Instagram that's interesting to take a look at. And maybe there's a niche that hasn't been received much attention and where you're going to generate a data set on, right? And then the code that you do can still be used for other things by your colleague. Okay. And maybe, think about what is a cool phenomenon on Instagram that you want to cast, right? Insights into new phenomena, that's a big thing in the motivation here. Good. And also explain the value to the research community, which I haven't heard so much. But yes, I think it should be possible. I want to show you this quality of the technical implementation. Now I'm actually doing, I'm going ahead a little bit, but there are some grading guidelines how I will grade your code that you will actually end up writing. All right, so please take a look at this too. Okay, because I think it has to do with the degree of complexity. I mean, if you're using a package and you're just issuing one command, that's also very simple, right? So there are other ways in which you can think about making your context bigger, right? So I'm curious actually to see how you follow up on this. Does it make sense?
So our area of data of interest is airline data, but because you want to focus on extracting reviews on different airline companies. So there are a lot of data variables that we can choose from, reviews that affect that question. For example, comfort, price, quality, satisfaction, service, or which airline is more preferred in terms of reviews. So that's kind of the direction that we are heading right now. We explored several data sources. First, we looked at websites, for example, Skyscanner, Air Equality, cheap tickets, etc. And we also found some APIs from Rapid API on airplane data, but that was more focused on prices than on reviews. So therefore, we decided to use airline equality, which is also called Skytrack. It might be a bit confusing, but anyway, that website, which is an online review platform for airlines. This website allows you to explore new phenomena, make a comparable data set for consumer reviews, and the data source is publicly available. Also, the ratings needs to be verified because you need to prove that you actually took that flight. So therefore, it's good data, and it's from 2006 up to today. And the reviews are made by multiple choice questions and text input. For example, the cabin review or the comfort review. So there's a lot of data available on the specific topics of reviews.
Just a second, Bram. Airline or also airport? I'm looking at the site right now. Why do you focus just on airline?
Oh, it's airline, airports.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Yes. But are you planning on getting it all? Or like
we're not sure yet. I don't know how big it is because it's from 2006 up to today.
You don't have to get all of that, right?
Okay.
Sorry that I'm jumping in, but
no problem.
You can add
I was finished.
Okay. I'm very enthusiastic. I'm very enthusiastic here. Okay, do you want to finish? Sorry, man.
Yeah, maybe I can just the last sentence. We think that this data seems to be a good fit for scraping and for the research with verified and availability of customer reviews to compare airlines in terms of reviews.
Yes.
So I think we are going to focus more on airline companies.
Yes, I mean, I look at this thing again through the lens of COVID, and I just see like amazing opportunities, and I haven't thought about this. So this is pretty cool what you came up with. The thing is, how did the preference for airline seats change as a function of COVID? Somewhat is also interesting, right? Because you could imagine like, okay, at the beginning of COVID, people were afraid to sit next to each other, but then, I don't know, something changes and suddenly people were taking a particular seat. You don't just know, right? And so don't just zoom in and think about, oh, the reviews became more negative. That's like super boring, but you're going to be like a supplier of amazing data for people who want to do COVID research with this data. So maybe also just focus on this. You narrow down on, let's say, 2018 until today. So you have enough of pre-data and a bunch of post-data. And now it's all about sampling on how you zoom in, right? So probably you can't get all reviews. So you need to think about it like an amazing sampling scheme to get this data. I'm coaching you actually on other parts that come in later, right? But like, how do you want to do this? We randomly pick 10 airports from each continent. That's one strategy. And then for each of those airports, we retrieve all of those airlines which go there. And then we retrieve all of those reviews. I don't know, there are multiple steps right here to do. And it'll blow up, right? Because if you start with let's say 10 airports in Europe, and then suddenly you have 200 airlines that go there and you're getting the reviews and, it's going to blow up, which is not a problem per se, but like, think about how you want to get that data, because ultimately we want connections between these different data points. It's not just like, oh, CalM reviews went up or went down. That's like boring, but it's like, you know, maybe on the air, I don't know. You know, there are connections in the data. That's like entity linkages. That's how I call this in this web scraping paper. So think about what are those linkages. Get inspired by my friends from Rijksmuseum, because they want to take a copy of that API. And it's not that this website is just going to give you a copy, but you have to simulate browsing behavior to get a copy, right? But zoom in, narrow in on something. So I like this a lot. Of course, you still need to narrow it down and maybe think about potential research questions as like your broader motivation. Not that you want to do it, not that one big research question, but in general, the context is airlines and the biggest crisis they have ever faced in the recent years. And we're gathering a data set that can be used by many people to look at how reviews changed, not only for airlines, but also for airports, how preference for seating has changed, and, you know, whatever. You'll just make it big. Okay. And
yes.
please show me that there's no comparable data set out there. And also for you guys, reading up on this like COVID research on like pre-post COVID comparisons is extremely interesting for you guys too. So you can get an understanding about how other people do this kind of research. You don't have to do this research, you're just gathering the data. And then finally, next time we meet for coaching, I want to know more about the reviews, the content of those reviews. You know, maybe is that better on what we have on Amazon? Like, you know, on Amazon, we just have one category of stars, I think, and then text. Maybe you have like valuable data too about this. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And then, can you go to slide 1, please? And then I'm done. No, slide 2, sorry. Yeah, I mean, do you get reviews on Skyscanner and air quality? I mean, if you're content like evaluations of airlines, then maybe Skyscanner is just giving you prices. So it's not like a good comparison, right? I mean, yes, you've explored, that's fine. But, you know, maybe you can look for review data of airlines and you know, other websites that provide reviews and compare those, because maybe they give you more data, maybe they give you less data, maybe they don't cover Europe, maybe they only cover US, right? So that is like kind of what I mean with exploring that data, which is around. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Thanks a bunch. All right, good guys. We're up to the next round in data, in online data collection and management, and it's going to be about Bitcoin and Euro. So there seems to be an amazing API. So I'm like super excited whether I can actually earn some money right now. So you guys run the show. Team number 7, you're on.
All right, let me just quickly see if I can share the screen.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, I found it. All right. So yeah, as you already said, we want to see the effects of foreign exchange, in especially then Euro compared to Bitcoin, and how those two might be related or not. And besides that, we want to see if there are some other predictor or factors that affect Bitcoin exchange. So for example, influencer tweets, for example, from Elon Musk, or world news, for example, that recently El Salvador legalized Bitcoin to be used in their country. So yeah, we want to compare those factors with the current price of Bitcoin, and we have a couple of ways to, or at least sources to collect the data from. So Yahoo Finance basically is a hub for most of this data when it comes to the financial aspects. So we can see the price of the euro and of the Bitcoin daily if we would want that. Next, Twitter is of course a way to have a bunch of knowledge and information and news articles related to Bitcoin or Euro. So that's another outlet we can use. And even if we would need so, we could use some financial news outlets if we want some more deep diving on certain news aspects. And then how are we gonna gather that data? So I wrote here potentially through scraping, but when I did some more research, I found that Yahoo Finance basically has an API with more information than we actually need. So we could even use their news feed for certain events that happened during certain time and days, and they have both the prices of Euro and Bitcoin. And there's a Twitter API, so we can basically look up users and then what they tweeted when they tweeted something, and if it had an effect on on Bitcoin. And as I mentioned earlier, it will be very cool if you can see or make some linear regression model to see which factors contribute to the price change of Bitcoin, and if that is at all is possible. So yeah, that's basically our idea.
Yeah, cool, Robin. Interesting. So my initial reaction here is it's a little too narrow. You already focus on like one particular research regression. You even have a method. Remember, you're here, you're interested in a broader data context that you're going to get data on for multiple users, maybe your own idea, maybe your thesis, but also to others. So that's my first reaction. The second thing is I did some Googling, and that data set, at least it seems to me, is available in Kaggle, right? So it's historical Bitcoin data and 1 minute intervals from selected exchanges. So not only like one, but like multiple exchanges from 2012 to 2021. You're just gonna merge it with Euro data and you got your data, right?
Oh, right.
So, so I wonder what is the new thing that you're gonna do here? The new kind of data that people haven't taken a look at. And I'm not familiar enough with Bitcoin. Do you have Bitcoins, Robin?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about it. Like, so like, what is it that's interesting to, yeah, I don't know.
I think what's interesting is the way that news can very heavily reflect on the price. And I think that's something which is in my, which for me more interesting, let's say. So basically.
So for you guys, see the finance data, I mean, everybody can just download. That's the easy part. The news part, that is a harder part. So how do you identify people talking about Bitcoin? You know, and like a few years ago, I had a project where we talked about political messages during the EU elections, and people built like a catalog of hashtags that they then started tracking on Twitter, right? So what are the hashtags that are interesting here to track? I think that may be like a route with Twitter to go down. Realize though that the Twitter API may be limited in its data use. So, you know, make sure you can get all that you want, but these people, they use Twitter. So please remind me so that I can share some example code. Okay. Example code for Twitter. But you need to remind me. I just put it in the chat so you remember. Yeah, I don't think about what I will expect, but think about more like, yeah, what's interesting to you guys? I don't know. So news. So what do you want to do? Like, you want to sell your Bitcoins before bad news affect the, I mean,
yeah, if you could maybe see indeed like what certain news aspects bring to the price. For example, some news has more effect than other types of news, for example.
Are there like specific news platforms that are specifically geared towards Bitcoin where people exchange ideas?
Yeah, they're probably on Reddit and also on, for example, Coinbase has its own news outlet itself.
All right, there we go. That's way better than Twitter, right? Okay. I mean, who's on Twitter? I mean, yeah, many people are on Twitter, but it's not those people that influence this technology so much. So maybe you can generate more data on the insiders of Bitcoin. And, you know, maybe you can't ultimately use it for your particular research question, but really there's this, I mean, most of the data you can just like readily download, but not from these platforms. So what are those platforms? Describe them to me. Sorry, so you have Reddit, I know, right? And you get the Reddit API, so that's a head start. That's an interesting, gather data from there. But the other side, how was it called?
Yeah, so you, for example, if you have a wallet on certain sites, one of them is Coinbase, and they have their own feed geared towards specific coins, let's say. So it says which news is more applicable to which coin, for example.
Yeah, so make it broader, right? It's not only about Bitcoin, it's about digital currency, and you're generating a data set on conversations about crypto mint and about crypto coins. That is interesting because probably everybody in the literature looks at like, I don't know, Bitcoin. But if we suddenly have 100 different crypto mints, we can understand. That is interesting. I love it. Now we got it. Okay, so how does the conversation about crypto mint affect the course, maybe, you know, like the exchange rate? And how is this, okay, this is too academic, but and how is this moderated by what kind of crypto mint it is, right? So it could be that, I don't know, by introduction date, by how much value you get for this, by who supports this, who backs this. You know, think about this, right? Think not only Bitcoin, but about all the other things, whether it runs on, whether it has like, it is being used for alternative things, right? I think Ethereum is not only used for, I think, money making, but also for like smart contracts. So that's another attribute. So think about crypto coins and their attributes. That's one data set. Like, how can we differentiate those? And then capturing conversations about these different coins and structuring those.
All right.
That is going to be valuable.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I'm looking forward to hearing more about this soon. All right, let's continue with the next team. I think it's going to be Twitter teammates.
Yes, that's us. Let me share my screen.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Oh. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes,
yes, this one. Okay. What we want to do is look at what is the overall opinion to ghost scooters in the Netherlands on Twitter. We wanted to have an idea or know a research that is that looks at a specific product that is new, and we thought that the ghost scooters is a good way to go. It is a little bit of a controversial thing. It was on the news lately that some people get annoyed by it, people don't use it well. And it's a phenomenon you see in a lot of cities in Europe, at least. When I was on holiday, I saw also those steps everywhere, and they get just thrown away, like also everywhere. So we thought this is a fun thing to do research about. And we wanted to look at the time frame from when it began, because those ghost scooters are relatively new, and then until now. So maybe we can also see some kind of evolution within that time frame. And what we actually wanted to know if the response is positive or negative. And for that, we need a kind of set of positive or negative words so that we can categorize the tweets actually from people, and then make some overall conclusions about it. We do realize that Twitter is maybe not the most representative data source for a whole country, but we thought it would at least give some kind of insights into what people think about it. So that's basically what we have.
Yeah, Jeremy, sorry, I need to interrupt. I love this, but I don't think Twitter is the right thing. Okay.
Okay.
So I think what we guys need to figure out is to actually scrape the content from the Go app, which means like capturing the locations and movement patterns of scooters in particular cities. And you know what we're going to do with this? We're going to that's the context, right? That's the only data that we're going to generate. But what you can do is write your thesis about how let's say, parking time of scooters affects subsequent use. All right. So I see like a ghost scooter all the time in front of my house, and I'm like so annoyed. I don't want to rent it because I don't want to be associated with like these stupid things that like block my street all the time. Right. That's me. But, you know, for other people, it may be different. So, you know, if you build a data set with moving patterns of these things, this data can be so valuable to study like really amazing adoption questions, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm looking at this Go sharing app, and please carry on with this. Like, I think you're phrasing the exact same problem, right? They're controversial because they're stuck around. And I think this data will help us to do this. Think a little deeper than what I can do right now. Like, is this the only data that you want to capture? Maybe there's other data on this app that you can capture. And I've never done this personally, but I think you can emulate a smartphone in your browser. This must be possible. And once it is in your browser, you can scrape it. So
Okay.
this is something completely new to me, but I'm super excited, and I'm at least, I mean, I'm willing to tag along and invest a little bit about finding out how this can be done, because I think this is a bit the future.
Yes, I know there are also other platforms, for example, Line, although that's not really active in the Netherlands, I believe. But if it's not possible with Go, then maybe it's possible to use that website, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, but there are like a million services where you can run apps in your browser. I mean, you just do your Googling, apptite.io. I mean, you'll do some Googling. So I would say your thing is that scooter problem is big. Try to capture data on moving patterns, and, we'll just, you can use it for your thesis, and we'll see where this goes. Okay.
Okay. And what will be the main research then, to look at scooter patterns or parking patterns to see?
Well, yeah, think about what metadata to capture, right? Maybe there's pricing data. Is pricing variable? Like, do prices vary on Go or not?
I don't know. I've never used them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, why? Same reason that I don't use them.
No, currently I'm living in a very small village, so there aren't any Go scooters here. I've used the shared steps though.
Yeah, but it could be like,
not in the Netherlands.
what affects the use of scooter sharing in the Netherlands? And you could, like, in a future research, people could just like, so you do not only get the moving patterns, but you also get maybe the zip codes in a way, like where these scooters are located, at a detailed level. Maybe you can extract this in a way. I don't know. And then people can link it to neighborhood statistics or weather, Vasilis. Exactly. You are building a live scraper. We will not go back in time with this, but this is like going forward. It's just interesting data. So please be like, reach out to me a lot to get like feedback. I mean, let's see where this goes. It's an interesting context, an important phenomenon. See, we want to make the world a better place. One way to do this is get more people actually not own a scooter, but use a rented scooter. But the problem is, we now have these rental vehicles, but people don't use it because they're like blocking the streets all the time. That's a big problem. That's a problem. So in this context, you're generating some data. All right, let's go on to the next team. Thanks a bunch.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, and try a bit of Googling about how potentially you could scrape the content of your mobile phone, or like emulating your mobile phone in your browser and then scraping this. Okay, that's the way to go. Sounds scary.
Okay, thank you.
It's amazingly cool. All right. I want to know more about online courses. Team number 9.
Yeah, can I share?
Please share, Vasilis.
Okay, perfect. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, the idea is the power of names. How course titles influence students' attitudes toward their learning courses. We identify like 4 different categories that maybe it's important for them. First of all, academic institutes that if they have more appealing names, students can register more in their programs or on the online courses. Secondly, students, if they know that titles affect their choices, maybe are more biased to the choices. Also for business like Coursera, Academy, Udemy, if they have more good titles, they can promote the products better. And finally, for the society, governments can encourage people to learn more about sustainability and environment. So the data source we try to find is Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, and edX. These sites contain different data sets like reviews, ratings, hours of course, how many people they register, the level, but the basic variables that are going to use is the title of the course, the ratings, and the amount of people that already registered. We decide to made also end scraping and API.
Good.
because I think it's more interesting for us to learn both of them. So in Coursera, we're gonna do scraping, and Udemy, we're gonna take the API that they offer, and we're gonna take it from there, the data. This is the
How will
basic idea.
In your research, how will you know it's because of the course name and not because of the teacher who teaches the course, the university which is affiliated with this course?
Okay, normally in these two sites, Coursera and Udemy, when you search about course, are divided or on category, or when you search something like, if you want to learn Python, the first thing that you write is like Python. You don't, I mean, it's a bit uncommon to write the name of the teacher.
No, it's true, but okay, in your research, and by the way, in oDCM, you're not going to do this research, right? So you also need to broaden this a little bit, right? Not only gather data for your question, which I think is a really cool question, but make it a little broader. But if you think about your research, you just have a list of course names and the popularity of these courses, and you want to make an inference later, not in this course, sorry, I'm talking about different things here, right? You want to make an inference on whether it's because of the name or whether it's because of something else, but you don't gather these something else.
Okay, yeah.
So think about what else drives course popularity and get that data from these sites too, because otherwise it's people won't be able to use this data set for answering this question. See what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
See, if I,
for example, here,
if I only gather, like, I want to predict whether some, you know, how much ice cream I'm selling, right? And I only predict data on ice cream prices, then I would find, like, if prices go up, people buy more ice cream, which doesn't make sense, right? If ice cream is cheaper, people will buy more ice cream. But I failed to gather weather data. And it turns out that when it's get hotter, the prices of ice creams go up at the beach, right? So you missed out on that data. So when you gather data for this research context, think about all the things that could potentially influence the popularity. In other words, there's so much data on these sites. So think about structuring this and getting this.
Yeah. What else can affect this choice, right?
Okay. But that's like a little too academic here. I mean, you know, for answering this research question, I mean, I need to tell you, but think about also the motivation for other things that people could potentially do this, right? Downplay working on this one particular research question and try to think a little broader. Where is education like this, for what it is important, and what could other research teams potentially do with this data? The text analysis on, like, what influence, you know, what title rocks, that is just one thing. So broaden it up a little bit. Okay. Show me the data sources again. Udemy, I think it was Coursera. Yeah. I mean, try to build some prototypes and find out how easy it is to get data from these sites. LinkedIn is probably going to block you in like a few seconds. And so, I mean, just gather, I mean, it's part of this. You don't choose a site and then just scrape it, but it's like going back and forth, and ultimately you'll find one that is okay. Can you go down a little bit more? Website or API, both. Go down, please.
It's like
yeah, and please try to see whether you can actually access the API of Udemy. But yeah.
Yeah, so we have a problem, but we're gonna talk later, I think.
All right. Yeah, we can discuss this in the coaching sessions, or like you can set up a call with me. All right, good. Okay, make it broader. That's the message. All right, wine. Team wine, number 10.
Yes, I will start sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I think Teun will explain a bit about how we came to our topic of wine and what we're gonna do with it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Teun.
Okay, cool. I think we took a slightly different approach than most teams. We don't have that much experience in Python between us, so we took a slightly different approach. We wanted to research something that really interests us, and with 4 girls on our team, that's almost likely to go to wine. So yeah, we tried to figure out a practical problem, and that's the difficulty of choosing a wine. even in the store, it's difficult to make a nice choice between 20 options. And we tried to scrape one of the biggest suppliers of wine, or at least the wine info, that's vivino.com. It's similar to Untapped, and they've got over 49,000 different wines stored there. But it's a big overload, so we try to make it more practical for like normal wine drinkers. Okay, go to the next slide, Ilse. Think you can cover this part?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we chose this website because it's quite, yeah, of course, many wines, of course, but the Teun already explained that. But it's quite scrapable in our view, because all the pages have the same structure, and yeah, all the wines, they have like multiple options, and that's similar for every product. And we're all quite excited to find out more about it. Yeah, and to look into how we can compare these different things. I don't know if Teun can add to this a bit.
Yeah, it's quite scrapable, and as we're not that experienced, we can make it even more difficult step by step to see some patterns between the wines or regions or even the reviews. And I see Hannes shared a link.
Yeah. So, sorry, we can talk about this link later, but I always put it down. Yeah. Are you in the stage of wanting to get feedback, or do you still got stuff to explain?
No, I think it's quite fine then.
All right. The first thing is, can everybody that uses GIFs like this give me a few websites on where I can find GIFs like this? Because I always end up at websites that seem to kind of be like very bad, and then I don't end up using GIFs, but I want to use more GIFs in my lectures. So please give me some links. I like this. So the second thing is, you have a textbook example of scraping. That's cool. I have heard about this store, but it looks fresh, and yeah, I mean, it's a classical scraping thing. Why I put this Kaggle, by the way, I'm still looking for GIF exchanges, so please give me those things. Like, I want to know, I want to learn, right? And if it's just about GIFs, I want to learn from them, right? So why I gave this link is that there are Kaggle data sets that have wine reviews, and I wonder, like, what are you going to do different? Like, why is your thing going to be like so cool? Is it because it's in the Netherlands and everything else was in the States, or I don't know. This data set, I see it's updated 4 years ago. Maybe you just say like, hey, they even have a code. Do they scrape wine from Vivino? I actually want to take a look at this. But maybe you just want to update this data set as position yourself against what they did, right? An updated wine data set, which is good enough, right? But think about how your work relates to what is out there, to show me that you got something to add. I'm looking at Vivino right now, and maybe something that you could think of, and I'm switching websites, is that there are current prices that you could potentially scrape. There are different storefronts that you can get, which this is Cante Paradiso. Is it the same thing? Ship to Netherlands 30? Yeah, maybe so the shipping price is slightly different, I guess. Maybe you'll have regional different offers. So, there's a bunch of stuff that could be doing. I don't know, but like, maybe you can think about extra stuff that you could get from the site. Maybe start by a particular category, but then see what else you could get.
Yep,
but I like it. It's a textbook example. Yeah. But make it important and make it matter, right? Not just like scrape for the sake of it. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Thank you.
Let's go and see the next team, which is flight prices. And I'm stopping to share my screen. We got team number 11 coming up. By the way, team 10, wine, I think you need to use Selenium too on this side. All right, who's team 11?
I'll take over for the first part.
Yeah.
Can you hear me first?
Before you touched your headphone,
Okay.
we could hear you, yes.
Okay, now it's better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let me share. Okay. Okay. So like
I thought you were going to scrape Kamenet, which would have been like an interesting.
That's personal stuff.
How do availability of rooms affect whether people actually come to a university?
I can say it affects my mood.
Yeah,
Not
or
in a
that.
nice way. So like you were talking with Bram before, we also were thinking about to analyze flights, the flight market.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, COVID changed our flight behavior. So in the past, this is just a very introduction. In the past, last minute flights were purchased for very cheap prices. Now, in the last years, not anymore. So last minute flights have a markup, and people still buy them. But so now, because of COVID, many things changed because people cannot make long-term plans, and they have to book their flight in the very last minute before with a short advance. And also some customers also are forced to cancel their flights because of COVID, something happened. And so the result of this is that there are many cancellation from the airline. So I don't know if something in the audience maybe happened to him having a canceled flight in the last year. It happened to me, for instance. And also we also assume that there are many different prices behavior. The pattern of prices are changed because I guess airlines are going to fix the changement of behavior and with the prices. And so considering this is a very new topic, like you were saying from the best option to of course go through it is through web data, by using web data, because you get the very fresh data information about this field. And since it's an unexplored topic, it should be interesting, and probably no one has already done that. So our idea is to both find some patterns in the prices just before the flight is the departure date, and also in case we can find a canceled flight, we want to see if the pattern of this flight, of the prices of flights that are being canceled, can be somehow predicted. So if there's a pattern that leads to, okay, the prices is going down and probably this flight is going to be canceled, or maybe not. So that's what we want to find out. Now I think Marche is gonna talk about APIs.
Cool.
Okay.
Yes. So we considered several data sources to use, both websites to scrape and APIs as well. For web scraping, we looked at websites summarizing flight data. Most of them provide flight offers from several different websites and airlines, which makes it good to find patterns and comparisons. We looked at Expedia, Skyscanner, Kayak.com, GreatEscape.com, Kiwi, and Momondo. And all these sites have valuable data that we could use, for example, variables such as price, airlines, destination, and flight frequency. And we also looked at some APIs as well, which have more specialized data. We found several on rapidapi.com. And these APIs can also be useful. Some of them let us search for flights and get flight prices from some databases, and they can also provide live price quotes directly from the ticketing agencies. And these APIs can be difficult to obtain because some require a request for access, or some need payment. and they are not customizable. So if we use them, then it might be difficult to obtain the exact data that we are interested in. But to deepen our research, we could definitely use APIs as well with web scraping. So both web scraping and APIs. Yes, and I think we can go to the next slide with Kevin.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'll conclude it for a first station. So, like Marcy just explained about the web scraping and API, our preference goes out to web scraping to be able to learn this ourselves, and I think those skills will be most valuable to us for later. And but also, it's still possible to include API as well. But within the list of possible websites to scrape, we chose kayak.com because this website actually collects information from other websites. So if correctly, we could get the best price data and order flight information data from here. And then the part of the data we will gather is we will make a selection of airports, probably mainly the most popular ones like Paris, Amsterdam, Rome, Ibiza, and more, to narrow it down a bit to be able to see a pattern. Because if you just look at all the airports, you might not be able to see a pattern. And then the goal as well is to scrape the flight ticket data once or twice a day to really be able to see how it changes over time.
All right. Thanks so much. So I'm just wondering whether price is the most unique aspect of this. I know you have defined a research question where you're interested in price. That's fine. But like when you do some Googling, you'll find a bunch of price data sets. So the first thing that I would, suggest you to do is look at what kind of pricing data is available and what you could add to this with kayak.com. Making it more recent is one thing, maybe making it more granular, zooming in on cities and differences per country. That's another unique aspect that you could add, which is fine. But I have a different idea, all right? So I looked for data while you were giving this presentation on canceled flights. And there is no data set, at least I couldn't find it, on which flights got canceled, right? So suppose you have researchers working with review data on particular flights on a particular date. Maybe they want to know how many flights of this flight were canceled during my observation window, which is like a variable that, maybe they're missing this variable. I even have a business proposal I want to make to you. Once you have this data and your scraper is running, you could set up your own canceled flight API, which, upon querying a date and flight number, your API is going to return on whether the flight was canceled, and if so, why, or not. I mean, do some Googling here. Prices is the most obvious thing to go to. Everybody will do this, and there's no money to be made. But if you build a way to get from multiple websites, and I think Flight Tracker or something, current cancellation notices across the world, I think that could be like a cool thing. It's just a feeling I have, all right? So yeah, maybe you can think about this more. So broaden your research context, don't just zoom in on prices. And maybe there's something about cancellation of flights that you can build, a data set of canceled flights. It seems so narrow, but I think that is just how powerful it is, because there will be lots of applications that you could use this. All right.
Yeah,
let's talk to team number 15. And they talk about an API. And then after this, I want to listen what team 12 is up to, because they haven't had a presentation for today, which is fine too. And then we need to discuss, so we're running out of time just a little bit, on how to go ahead with the tutorial. So I want to make a proposal about how to go through your questions, because today there wasn't time for it, unfortunately, but we're going to find a new spot. So team number 15, give me your pitch. And
Yes.
Can you stop share, Lorenzo?
Yeah, so thank you. So we're going to do research about the interaction between Spotify and YouTube Music. So our motivation is that we noticed that a lot of music artists release their music on Friday at noon. However, they released the video clip a few days later, and we were wondering why that is, and if there's a correlation between these releases.
Sorry, Jeroen, I'm gonna be a little quick now because of the time. I love this context. If really no data set exists on this, this is really cool, but don't make it too narrow. I would say try to make it, don't narrow down on one research question, but like the context is just linking the Spotify data to YouTube data and gathering the relevant YouTube stats. So yeah. Cool. Can you go on?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we came to this study, or to this research problem, because we found a study from Finland where they already tried to research it, but it was only focused on Finland, and it was from 2014. So we wanted to see what changed over the years. So we will create a new data set. And then, like I told you, there's no data set available yet.
Jeroen, have you thought about, sorry, I need to interrupt here. So in this web scraping paper, I talk about seeding, all right? If that doesn't ring a bell, read it. But I think the seeding data set that you should use are the stuff that appears on the spotifycharts.com website across countries.
Yeah, we considered that, but I will come up that later.
Okay, go on.
So yeah, we explored the following points, the following data sources: YouTube API, SoundCloud API, and so forth. And we also used the Fields of Gold paper for that. And as you can see, a couple of these are at the data aggregator section.
Yes.
So they are less detailed, and we wanted to have a lot of details for this. So we decided to go for Spotify web API and the YouTube API because they both have a lot of details, and both are really easily accessible, and yeah, everyone can use it, and they have like huge pages on their own website how you can do everything with their APIs. And the other data sources that we looked at, they were really limited, and some also don't have a lot of users. Like for example, Deezer only has 2%. 2% of the Dutch population is using Deezer. So we also considered the Spotify charts website. However, it only showed like the number of plays, and it didn't show any other details. And for us, it was also important to see during the research if other characteristics like genre or movie labels also had an impact on that. And yeah, that's a con of Spotify charts website, that they don't include that. So that's why we also wanted to use the web API of Spotify and combine that with the YouTube API. And the benefit of the YouTube API is that they also have a classification in their API where you can select only on music, and you don't get all the funny videos and all the other videos on YouTube as well.
Have you accessed the YouTube API already? So did you try it out? Does it work?
I didn't try it out, but I've checked the website, and it's really, really easy. It's really clear.
I think the power is not using these two APIs independently, but making the step to link them to each other.
Yeah, we want to do that.
Yes, good.
So yeah,
anything else? Anything else?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that linking is important. I mean, in the next iteration of this, I want to see like what kind of variables are you going to capture and how you're going to save. That's going to be a lot of stuff where you have to do a lot of thinking how to do this, but I see the value in linking these two things. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yes, and I forgot to mention that on YouTube you can also see when a song is released by a artist or like a publisher, and that's the downfall of I would say the con side of SoundCloud. that they also offer a lot of mixtapes, covers, and bootlegs, and all those kind of things that are not officially released. So yeah, we just want to focus on officially released music, and that's easy in Spotify and YouTube.
Well,
yeah.
But should you focus on unofficially released music? Probably there's no data set on this. So, you know, that's, I always focus on the officially released music just because I don't have data of the other things. So, you know, that could be a potential direction to think about too. All right.
True.
I want you
All
guys to try on whether you get these APIs to work, because I'm not sure about YouTube API and how open it is. Spotify should work. All right.
It seemed really open. Okay. So yeah.
Good. See, in the interest of time, this is what I suggest. Team 12, is there anything that you want to show or not show, but discuss? Like, what stuff are you thinking about?
Yeah, we currently have more ideas, but we didn't really decide on something, so we don't want to waste your time now.
No, what we'll do is we won't have the others wait. So I'll meet you guys after the others exit, or I mean, they can stick around. But I quickly want to wrap up this session. I'm sorry that it took a little longer, and I'm really sorry that we didn't cover this tutorial, which is because probably I didn't plan my time very well. So this is what I suggest. So I suggested this coaching session on next Tuesday, right? In which you could meet. And I'm actually proposing now to use this slot on the 21st, and I'll put it in the schedule, to meet and go through this tutorial. And that's not going to take the full 1.5 hours. And then the rest of that time you can work independently, and I'll be sticking around. So this is going to come on top. I mean, but it was useful to talk about your presentations. Is that something that works for you guys? The other thing that this allows is people to go through this tutorial themselves, right? I think only 30 or 40% actually did this tutorial. So spend your time and go through this tutorial, and then I'll walk you through this on the 21st, all right? I'll put this in an extra announcement for those guys that weren't there. Does that make sense? There were 6 people who are lost. Please be in touch on WhatsApp so we can set up an extra session for you guys to get you back on board, all right? With this, I'm closing the official part of today's live stream. Once again, I apologize for the time planning, but I think it's been extremely useful talking about these data contexts and receiving this feedback. And I actually look forward also talking a little bit about the research of Team 12, but we'll do this when other people have the opportunity to exit. Okay, so thanks a bunch, and I'll see you next week, Tuesday, for the tutorial session plus coaching. Thanks a bunch.